Bloody hell, it just goes from bad to worse. This should be well, it would be about part 5, I think, if some of the other parts worked. Just don't have to apologise that this rant is going to be in multiple parts. And I had to switch devices. And this one doesn't even have portrait mode, which I should be concentrating on doing this beer anyway. What's the date today? Anybody know? Let me have a look on this thing. 19th. 19 Sep. 7th month. 9th month. 19, 9, 18. 10, 9, 9. 28, 2, 8, 10, 1. Today's a 1 day. Unless, of course, you add 2000 to it. But we won't do that because I'm not here to wax lyrical about numbers, the bottle beer, and talk about the sun and religion. 1908. 1909. Get it right, dickhead. Alright, 1 cup. I've got a bit more to go, so I better not dawdle here. Time keeps on ticking into the future. Still now though. So time itself, chronological time. I'm going to tilt that up a bit. I want to see my hairy legs. I want to see my hairy face. Chronological time from the god Kronos. Yep. Everything is all about the gods, whether you know it or not. I mean, even our wandering stars are still named after ancient Greek gods. Though I think Kronos is Saturn, which is... What are you doing in this? I don't know if you can see that, if it will show up or not. It's one of these old 4X bottles. I normally try to keep those ones for if I'm gifting it to somebody, because you don't often get your bottles back, so I try to keep my good Cooper's ones. Where was I? Kronos. Chronological time. The great god of everything. Evolution exists because of time. Everything happens over time. So again, God worshipping. Now Saturn is quite interesting because he also is known as Satan, and Satan is also known as the Great Deceiver. Now a lot of people will intermingle the terms Satan and Lucifer. I think that's also part of the Great Deception, because Lucifer is also the sun. Apollo, Helios, Ra, Sol, oh my father. What was I talking about again? Helios, Saturn, Satan, the Great Deceiver. Now, what's interesting about the Great Deceiver, and this is, I came up with this term for it myself, calling it the Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure if it was originally intended to stand for Saturn. Saturn sounds like smooth as silk, doesn't it? Very Luciferian. Not. Come up to a new bag here. You can come prepared, eh? Is why I call it the Lord of the Rings is because it's the only planet, only wandering star that we see in the heavens that has a ring around it. There's that term again. If you like it, then you better put a ring on it. And that is what creates the illusion of it being a physical body in heaven, because when we look at it through a telescope, we think of it as somehow like a moon, but flattened out and stuck in orbit around this light in the sky, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. The fact that we can have moons and rings, but you know, science finds an answer for everything. You know, after all, they're famous for the world's largest pendulum, a diviner's tool, Foucault's pendulum, to prove that Earth's moving. I mean, come on. It's bad enough that you get people with their little crystals and doing their divination, which does work, mind you. But anyway, so it's got this illusion. Now, if we actually understand the stars as angels, for want of a better term, as sonoluminescent glowing beings in the waters above, which, whether or not it's actual water, I think that's up for debate. I don't personally think so, just by the fact that there's underwater lakes. I know, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? That's how the guys that discovered it said. They said there's a lake underwater, and then in their submarine they're going, wait a minute, we're already underwater, and here's this liquid layer so dense that it actually forms its own lake. And they said they tried to go into it in their submarine, and it was so dense that they bounced off it and ripples went across the surface. So if you think about it, everything finds its level through density and buoyancy. Then obviously this is a very dense fluid level. Yeah, maybe it's like a form of tar or something so saline. Who knows what it is? I don't think they could even take samples of it, but it's a curiosity nonetheless. Well, the firmament may also be some sort of layer similar. And if you think about it, that aeroplanes being unable to go above 80,000 feet, the reason for that is because of air density. As we know, the higher you go, the less dense the air is. Therefore, it's pressing down on you less. So the term pressure applies as less pressing down, less pressure. Less pressure you are. And eventually it reaches a point where the air is so thin that it's not buoyant enough for a plane to get lift from it any further. Now, if you think about it in other terms, flying things are basically swimming in air. You know, fish swim in water, birds swim in air, but we call it flying simply because we like to give things words that we think, you know, we associate it with a different type of reality. But in a sense, it's the same sort of reality. It's all swimming, or it's all flying. You know, you could say that fish are flying in their medium of water, which they literally are. They're floating, they're flying. They use a lot less effort because water is far more dense, whereas air, being much less dense, requires a lot more energy to remain buoyant, which is why planes, of course, have to apply a heck of a lot of thrust, and that thrust creates enough air under the shape of the wings to create the lift to remain buoyant, or aloft, if you will. Hot air balloons, for example, use a different sort of energy. They use thermal energy, based on the fact that hot air rises. So if you fill an enclosed environment with a lot of hot air, it will rise, especially in cooler air. That's why they like doing it early in the morning, before the day gets too hot, because they probably find hot air balloons don't work too well in a hot environment, because they simply can't get hot enough to remain aloft. So where the hell was I going with this rant? Nowhere, that's right, just ranting. So back to the planet then, Saturn. It deceived us into believing that planets could be physical bodies because of this ring appearing to go around it, which we somehow associate with our moon. Now, I believe our moon is the only moon in all of existence, and our planar Earth, is the only physical plane in all of existence. The moon, I believe it is physical. A lot of people try to say it's light, and I think that's where they've also been deceived. A lot of us have been deceived in so many ways. It'll take us, I think, generations to uncover all the deceptions. But I think we have to recognize the fact that the moon is a physical body, and I would suggest it is full of helium, perhaps hydrogen. It would also work, and hydrogen can be easily made in a chemical reaction just by electrodes and metal plates in water. So it wouldn't be that hard, and at the height that it's at, it's probably in a field of nearly pure helium anyway, so it's possibly even able to harness it directly from the surrounding atmosphere or air or helium cloud that it lives in, exists in. I don't know, it's something that one day we might discover the truth about. But this concept now that the planets are real physical bodies and that they are somewhat similar to Earth, I think we went seriously wrong where we started to believe that. We started to think Earth is completely insignificant. So where did this idea come from? Well, let's trace it back. We can go back to about the 1400s, thereabouts, I believe. I'm no great historian, but you can Google this if you really care about the exact dates and exactly who and how and why. But Copernicus basically put forward the idea that it could work like this if we were going around the sun and we were spinning on our axis, and he basically got put under what they call a house arrest to work on this idea, because they said, we want to make it so that finally the Earth can be seen to be going around the sun, because the sun worshippers really, really wanted this. They needed this to support their religious belief that the sun is God, and we want to be able to put it at the center of all existence. So they did. And Copernicus says, well, no, but there's so many things that wouldn't work that make it impossible. And they said, well, make it work. We'll bloody lock you up for house arrest until you do. And he's like, didn't really want to, but sometimes you got to do things that you don't particularly want to do. And eventually, after he died, so we don't even know if it's his real work, they released it under his name at least, to say the heliocentric model, and it got adopted. Like, it's taken a long time and it's been a long debate. Believe me, a lot of people think, yeah, they scratch their heads going, are there still people believing today that the Earth is flat? We've known for thousands of years that it's a ball. Well, how many other beliefs have you been holding for thousands of years that are later proven to be wrong, to be superstitious, to be religious cult beliefs? But this one somehow is exceptional. It stood the test of time, chronos. It's chronological. It's chronic. It's a chronic indoctrination into believing something that isn't true, based off philosophy. And if you look into anything in history, in science, in any field, I saw an interesting ad for this not that long ago where you can wiki search, any particular topic, anything. Click the first link that it links to at the bottom, and then click the first one it links to, and the first of it, and the first of it. Every single one of them eventually leads back to philosophy, which is the point I'm trying to make, is philosophy is the highest of all science. And as a result of that, that means it's basically debatable. Nothing is set in stone, and that is science for you. Science basically says, well, this is our current best theory, and if someone comes up with a better one, then we change it, we adopt to that, and we go with it. Yet when it comes to this heliocentrism that they've known for thousands of years, it hasn't changed. Well, it has, because they didn't actually believe it. Some of them thought we lived on a ball, these Greek philosophers, because as they travelled, they'd see the stars changed. As you change location, I mean, the mountains change too. Doesn't make mountains balls, or the stars, but because the stars change and boats go over the horizon, they speculated on the fact that maybe we live on a sphere. And then of course they had to invent some reason why we didn't fall off, and so they said, well, maybe it has an attraction towards the centre, so it has to be a really big sphere. And so mankind has basically been spending most of their time in science trying to work out how big the sphere is. They have a sense, and you can't measure it. You can't take a tape measure across oceans. You can sort of do it across land, but you have to account for the undulations as well, so you can take aerial photography, and that works. But we basically have all these maps and everything worked out in some design that says we live on a ball. And the way they worked out this fact, Polaris is this fixed star that all the other stars appear to rotate around, and so they figured, well, that matches with the top of the world, the North Pole. And then they use this thing called a compass to draw a circle matching the stars, and these become your lines of latitude around the North Pole. And then they said that they curve downwards towards the equator, but then they go pear-shaped, because it actually keeps getting bigger. And after that, they just throw it in the too hard basket and say, oh, well, let's just keep telling ourselves it's a pear-shaped spinning ball, and how could all our founding fathers of scientism for all these years be so wrong? They can't possibly be wrong. We'll never admit we're wrong. We might change all sorts of things, but we're not going to change our sun-worshipping heliocentric model. So despite the fact that the Earth goes pear-shaped, it's because it just keeps getting bigger and bigger circles out, the further out you go. Tape. So I don't know why we keep believing it. Why do we keep believing it? Because we're taught it. And we're taught to ridicule anybody who thinks otherwise. Now that's the whole sad and sorry part of the whole thing, because back in the day when the ancient Egyptians and so forth worshipped all their various gods, people had their religions. Some would worship, the sun. Some would be Isis worshippers, Venus, Mars, any of the other wandering gods. And all these people got along just fine. They didn't ridicule each other. They said, oh, you're of the house of Isis, for example, or you're the house of Horus. Well, we'll pray to our God, you pray to your God, and we'll all cross our fingers and hope for the best and hope the sky doesn't fall on our heads, or whatever it was they would pray for. But they didn't have this sense of ridiculing somebody because they believed in a different God. And so when Christianity came along, they basically wanted to dominate our thoughts, which is what government is all about. Ment is mind, govern is rule, control. So they wanted to mind control all the masses. The best way to do that was with a single unified religion. So they did that with sun worship. We're all going to worship the sun. I need more bottles. I didn't plan this through very well. What's the time? What's the chronological time? 11 o'clock. I'm not going to get it all done anyway. No, I'll just do a carton of these ones then. Didn't particularly want to. This is just mad. Excuse me for 1 second. I'll pause it. I said I'll pause it. Alright. So where was I? I'm getting back again to the great deceiver, Saturn, Chronos, chronological time, the Lord of the Rings, obviously. I think a lot of fictional stories are allegorical. It took these hobbits half-men because a full man was too easily tempted by all the power and the glory, by having the one ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. It's too powerful a temptation. So it took a halfling, which I guess we could take as an innocent child, to destroy the ring, which was to walk into Mordor, which one does not just walk into, but if one does, one better be a halfling and go through maybe a back passage somehow and reach the ends of the earth, the fires of hell, and destroy that. Anyhow, it's an interesting tale. I think it's got a lot of similarities to, like the Boromir, I think his name was. He's a king of his particular kingdom, and he knows how much good he could do if he had that power. But as we all know, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is, in a sense, when you really think about it, if Satan is the ruler of this world, it's a pretty difficult task. I mean, if you can assume for a second that God is real and evil exists, then you have to therefore assume that God created evil. Therefore God isn't all this good stuff we like to associate God with. And so therefore we have to accept that God is the devil. It's that, how do you call it, that paradox you have to eventually reach to say that God is both good and bad. Just as live is evil spelt backwards, God is dog spelt backwards. Everything has its dual nature, the yin and the yang, the 6 and the 9. 6 and the 9. It's the symbol of yin yang. It's also the symbol of Cancer, the sign where the sun peaks at the top. So, and the sun sign of Cancer is also ruled by the moon. And if you look at the moon, look at the full moon, I mean, look loosely, don't look specifically, but look loosely at it, and you will see that the dark part and the light part actually make a fairly crude but visible yin-yang symbol, which is, I think, it's leading to the fact that we're given all these clues in nature that make me think we are living in a matrix, in a computer construct, and it's designed to look natural, because how else are you going to do it? You've got to have rules, right? You know, up is up, down is down. Without that, everything would be topsy-turvy. There'd be no sanity. You have to have rules. You've got to put a floor on it. Things walk on the floor. There's a density within it, and everything abides by fixed rules, fixed laws. And obviously laws can are made to be broken, but only if you hold the key. And what is the key? Well, the key is how we sing. We sing in key. We sing with chords, if we're in accordance with the laws. Everything is frequency and vibration. Light is a frequency, it's a vibration. Sound is a frequency, a vibration. You detect it with your ears and your eyes. Everything is frequency and vibration. So, in order to change things to how you want it to be, you sing it. You reverse it. You write a new verse. If things aren't going the way you want, which particularly not at this stage, but we can reverse it. We can sing a new song. Sing a new song unto the Lord, singing hallelujah. So I think this is why I was given all these hints as a child, because God is great, God is good, has also got the potential to be the greatest evil imaginable. And so that is why we are given free will, because what we will to be is what will be. Whatever we hold true in God's name on earth, God will hold true in heaven. So we've got to stop thinking negatively, for one thing, because negative thoughts create negative reality. Think positive. Think good things. Think, geez, I'm making the best beer ever, and this beer, one sip of this, you can live forever. You'll never die. You'll never age. You'll keep growing hair, like I've been growing for the last few centuries, but no, I used to shave it all off. This is what I was learning in church, is that they'd be praying for eternal life. But where they kept going wrong, where we got brainwashed into thinking wrong, is we're thinking of the afterlife. That's not how it works. This is life. Afterlife means, well, okay, you get to go and join the stars up in heaven, and that's, believe me, the most enjoyable, luxurious experience you can imagine. It is divine bliss. But life and all its challenges and all its paradoxes and all its struggles and everything else is far more fun because it's challenging. There's no challenge to eternal bliss. It's beautiful and it's lovely and all, but occasionally you say, alright, I'm ready for a challenge. How can we create a challenge so difficult that we don't even know who we are? So we created man, we created earth, we created this awesome realm full of amazing creatures, miraculous, living, breathing, breeding, fornicating, fighting, eating each other creatures. And we came down here to dwell in it for a bit of fun. Well, not so much fun, just for the challenge, to test ourselves, to test our mettle, to see what we're made of. And if we really shine, then we earn our place back up in there as shining as one of the stars. Not to have our hands imprinted in concrete on a footpath in Hollywood. They're not stars, they're actors. Neil Young had a song, where the people are the real stars, all the rest of their lives. And that comes from the chorus. See the losers in the best bars, meet the winners in the dives, where the people are the real stars, all the rest of their lives. And this is what Jesus recognized. The people are the real stars, the real, genuine, homeless people, the ones living here in reality. They're the real stars. All these people with their riches and their privileges and their high living and all the rest, they're the unlucky ones. There's a better chance of a camel passing through the eye of a needle than there is for them to enter heaven. You think about it. If you got possessions, what's the opposite of possessions? Being possessed. They own you. Who knows who made who? Who owns who? When you let it all go, that's how you follow Jesus on the true path to heaven. by having no possessions. You own nothing, so nothing owns you, and you're a free man. And you're the real star of your own existence. Because you came here naked, with nothing. Relied on your mother for sustenance. Forgot where you came from. And now look where you are. How's our chronological time going? Time I called it quits. I'll have to bottle the rest of this later on. Anyway, thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll come back and talk about something worth listening to next time. See you later.